Roger, good to see you. Thanks for joining us today.
Sean, great to be back with you as always.
So we had some tragic news over the weekend that our buddy Mayor Giuliani was in a car accident. It looks like he's okay. I know you've spent some time with him recently. I think you were out in Vegas doing a show with him talking about the mayors. President Trump last night announcing that he's awarding the Medal of Freedom to Mayor Giuliani. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, Sean, actually, I was a volunteer in Rudy Giuliani's first campaign for mayor. He was elected mayor on his second try. And of course, he is and continues to be the greatest mayor in New York City history. When Rudy Giuliani was elected mayor, they thought New York City was hopeless, that it could never be an economic powerhouse again. The streets could never be clean or safe again. He proved them wrong. Michael Bloomberg was a pretty good mayor. That's because he continued the policies of Rudy Giuliani. And then, of course, they elected Bill de Blasio, and it's been nothing but downhill since there. So just based on that accomplishment alone, he goes down in the history books. But the worst part here is the way he has been persecuted for playing the role of a lawyer, standing up and protecting the interests of his client, in this case, Donald Trump. The hell that they have put him through, trying to take his legal license, trying to fine him millions and millions and millions of dollars. For what? Because he represented his client in the 2020 election, which we see every day increasing evidence of anomalies, irregularities, and outright fraud. The man is very much like the president in terms of the level of his energy and his persistence. At 80 years old, he could be on the beach someplace enjoying himself, and instead he's right there in the fight. I spoke with him, as you point out, in Las Vegas the other day. We did a great interview. In fact, I think because of he's laid up, they reran the interview last night.
They did
record numbers. I was kind of proud of that. So he's a great man. He's a good man. He's been a friend for a long time. And this honor is really, really deserved. As badly as General Flynn has been treated, as badly as I have been treated, as badly as the president has been treated, almost nobody has been treated as badly as Rudy Giuliani. What did he do? He represented the interests of his client. One other thing, during that dispute, I watched him give a summation to the Pennsylvania State Senate without a single note. It was one of the most brilliant orations I have ever seen. So anybody who thinks Rudy Giuliani is missing a step doesn't understand him.
Oh my gosh. By the way, they did rerun that segment last night, which is, I was watching it. I was taken by your critique of the various mayors of New York, both their style and their substance. And I just, every time I watch you guys interact, I feel like I become smarter because it like I said, what was cool about it is you never would hear that conversation anywhere else. Between the two of you, it was this mix of literally the style, which you're very well known for, but then also the substance of their policies and the impact that they had. I loved the conversation that you had, and you could tell that you guys enjoy a great friendship.
Well, let's see if I can remember this. We were talking about the current mayor, Eric Adams, who is an unmitigated disaster. Just to be clear, Eric Adams ran for mayor as a full-throated advocate for New York City being a sanctuary city. So the idea that Eric Adams was ever opposed to open borders is just categorically untrue. His criticism of the Biden administration was that they didn't give him the millions of dollars to pay for the problem that they created. But at the same time, he put homeless shelters into some of the most stable working class neighborhoods in New York. In Staten Island, he put a homeless shelter with no plumbing facilities, porta potties outside, next to a Catholic girls' school. What kind of judgment is that? So I said that Eric Adams was the best dressed mayor since Jimmy Walker. He was the most corrupt mayor since William O'Dwyer. He was the shortest mayor since Abe Beame, and he was the most incompetent mayor since Bill de Blasio.
Hey guys, I hope you're enjoying this conversation, but if you're looking for a way to get to sleep tonight and stay asleep, I've got the answer for you. For over a year, I've been taking Beam's Dream Powder. It has made a world of difference. I fall asleep faster, I stay asleep, and I wake up ready to go. If you want to join me by taking one scoop every night before you get to bed, go to shopbeam.com/Spicer. Use code word Spicer at checkout for up to 40% off. Trust me, everything stems from a great night's sleep. Go to shopbeam.com/Spicer, code word Spicer. All right, back to the conversation. And don't fall asleep yet. See, that's what I'm talking about. I didn't even know who half of those people were. And suddenly I have this context of New York City mayors that nobody else but Roger Stone could bring. I think about that, though, in the context of what I believe, and you know, I played this clip in the intro, Roger, J.D. Vance calling you a brilliant political strategist. So let's put your hat on for a second. This Mamdani guy, I don't see, we are sitting here at the beginning of September. I think time is in his favor, Mamdani, that is, and that this idea that somehow everyone's going to coalesce around Cuomo is ridiculous. I believe that there is, to me, not enough time to stop him, and he is the next mayor. What say you?
Sean, I think you're right on the money. The fundamental problem is the only chance to stop him was in the Democrat primary.
Yeah.
Republican registration in New York City when Rudy Giuliani was a mayor was about 31, 32%. Today, it's about 13%. Also, the ethnic makeup of New York City has dropped very dramatically, meaning the number of white Democrats still left in the city is very low. So you have a completely different demographic mix. On top of that, you have three candidates who are carrying very, very significant negatives. Andrew Cuomo, because of the nature in which of the way he left the governor's office, has a 62% net unfavorable rating, beat only by Eric Adams. By the way, I've never seen this in the 50 years I've been in politics. 73% have an unfavorable view of the current mayor, and that's 40% very unfavorable and 31 somewhat unfavorable. That's really underwater, no room to grow. Curtis Sliwa is actually the only candidate who has consistently gained through every round of polling, 13, 16, 19, 21. He's slowly rising, but even his unfavorable rating is at about 41% last time I looked. That's 20 years of being on talk radio and talking about controversial subjects. But Mamdani continues to have the lowest unfavorable rating, somewhere around 38. All that tells me is people don't understand the implications of his policies. Sean, you and I have seen this before. He's selling hope and change. He's telling people that he's the guy fighting the entrenched special interests. He's the guy fighting the dark money, when the truth is his money is coming from billionaires in Malibu and the Upper East Side and Beverly Hills. It's not a people-funded revolution. The number of small individual donations to him is extraordinarily small. It's all big money, and most of it's from outside New York City.
Before we move on, there was I think it was a tweet that you put out that struck, it made me smile, because I say this all the time to people who call me for political advice. Your tweet, I don't have it at my fingertips right now, but it said something to the extent of like, you know, there's some great patriots out there running for office, but for every one of them who says, I don't have any money, but I have a grassroots team behind me, you will lose spectacularly. And Roger, I laughed when I read it, because I talk to so many people when I say to them, okay, they're launching the campaign. I go, so what's your campaign budget? And they go, Sean, you wouldn't believe the army I have behind me. And I was like, okay, so you're going to lose. And I read your tweet, and I'm like, this is every single person who says that is literally just admitting they're not going to win. You may not like it, but the reality is you need money to get a staff, to pay for signs and advertising and data and all that stuff. And anyone who thinks they're going to run for office without a campaign budget of significance for any office these days, whether it's city council, mayor, or Congress, is nuts.
But you see this phenomena. You saw it with Barry Goldwater. You saw it with Ronald Reagan. You saw it with Donald Trump, where they attract a whole group of new people to politics for the first time. Now, they're not party regulars. They have no previous experience. They're good-hearted people. Their heart is in the right place. But politics today is an expensive, data-driven, scientific endeavor. It's not something where you just run around and talk to Republican clubs and put up yard signs. It takes a huge amount of money, even today, to communicate. Now, the internet has improved that very dramatically. The internet now is the number one way to communicate with voters, and it's far less expensive than, say, network television or even in the big markets, terrestrial radio. But if you're thinking about running for Congress, let's say, and you intend to do it all by door-to-door knocking and a grassroots activity, we call candidates like that losers.
That's so true. All right. Well, we talked about Rudy Giuliani and the success he had as mayor. I think what he's probably most known for outside of 9/11 is the broken windows attack on crime. This idea that if you really just get at the most basic level of crime, you'll start to solve it. Once you go after graffiti and broken windows, you tackle everything because you can't let anything go. Donald Trump kind of went at DC in that way, and he brought in, it's a unique situation because it's a federal district. He deployed the National Guard. He used the federal resources that largely exist here. Everyone's got a police force. I think there's like 28 police forces in DC. And Roger, I've lived in this area since the 90s. I was around DC 4 or 5 times in the last, 4 days. I've never seen it safer in every corner. I mean, and I think Donald Trump has proven that if you want to have a safe city, you can do it. So here's the question I have for you as a political strategist. There's a lot of talk that Trump may go after cities, Chicago clearly being number one on the list, maybe Baltimore. And I would argue that maybe instead of jamming the National Guard into a city against their will, that the White House hold up DC as the example and say, look at what we've done in 20 days. Carjackings down, no murders, crime across, like you can walk freely through the streets of DC like never before. And basically challenge the people of Chicago or Baltimore or wherever and say, you want a safe city? We can help you do that. Just ask your mayor to tell us that he wants the help or she wants the help. Instead of jamming it in there, I think that we use DC as the example of what can happen.
Well, you make a good point. The problem, of course, you have here is that the politicians do not necessarily reflect what the people want. I noticed this in D.C. when average citizens were interviewed to a person, they all said, this is great. God bless President Trump. You know, I can actually walk to the grocery store or the drugstore without fear of being hit in the head or being attacked. My kids can go outside and play without fear of being injured. I think it's a great thing. But you have politicians like J.B. Pritzker. I was on a podcast last night. I was arguing with a liberal who said J.B. Pritzker should be on Mount Rushmore. I said, if J.B. Pritzker was on Mount Rushmore, there wouldn't be room for anybody else. This guy he thinks he can launch a presidential campaign based on the misery of the people of Chicago. And Brandon Johnson, the mayor of Chicago, if this guy's IQ was 1 point lower, you'd have to water him like a plant. I mean, several days ago, I swear to God, he said that the rising crime problem in Chicago was the fault of Richard Nixon. President Nixon's been dead for 30 years. How is it his fault? No, I'd say it's your fault for these soft on crime policies. Last year, there were 223,000 911 calls made to the Chicago Police Department that went unanswered. That's because the entire police force is down by 1,600 personnel. Those are 1,600 jobs, Sean, that no one will apply for because no one wants them because the politicians will not back the police officers up in the streets. So they seem to be bent on this idea that they can sell rising crime as an attribute to the American people, which, of course, is untrue. The only way to do what you say is it could be done, which I think is a pretty smart idea, is you would have to get rid of their leaders. You'd have to run for mayor on the platform that if you elect me mayor, I will invite the president to come in here and work with our police department to clean up crime in the city. It could be done that way.
Here's what I don't get, and this is where your years of experience, I want to hear your answer. What I fundamentally don't get is a guy like Brandon Johnson, the mayor of Chicago. There were 50 people plus that were killed this weekend in Chicago. 50. How do you, as a mayor, say, I'm doing everything I can, I'm keeping the city safe, I'm protecting you, when that's the result of one weekend? I just don't get. To your point, you're saying that they're selling it. I don't know how you defend it. I fundamentally believe that elections are about two things. One is your personal security, meaning economically. Do you feel like your life is getting better? Do you feel like you can, pay for things or put some money away for a vacation or buy food for your family? And then your personal security. Do you feel safe walking down the street? And I can't believe that Democrats at large, particularly that this mayor in Chicago, are almost embracing crime. It's like, he's like, yeah, what are you talking about? No big deal. No one I know, Roger, and I guarantee you're in the same boat. There's not a person that you can call that lives in the city of Chicago and feels safe. I don't know how a mayor gets away with that.
Right now, Mayor Brandon Johnson has a 6% approval rating. 6%. That's the lowest I've ever seen, and I've been doing this for 50 years. I think he's speaking to some national constituency that doesn't even exist in itself. J.B. Pritzker actually says that shootings were down this weekend. They had 56, I think, is the number of shooting deaths this weekend. Over 116 people shot and wounded, but not killed. This is a crime spree, but they're in denial. Oh no, this is tyranny. Trump wants to militarize all the cities in the country. Look, this is very simple. The first responsibility of the president of the United States is to maintain order. You worked for him, as I did. Donald Trump is not a man to be trifled with. He is not a man to be taunted. He is not a man to be challenged. He is intent on being the law and order president and restoring order to this country, and he's going to do it. I recognize that he doesn't have the ability to federalize the Chicago police the way he does in D.C., but he does have the authority to declare, based on the statistics of this past weekend, that there is a national emergency in Chicago and send in the National Guard. And frankly, that's what I think he's going to do. Now, when he does that, some leftist activist judge, who's not really a judge but a politician, is going to try to rule that he doesn't have that authority. And then that'll get appealed. He might even lose on appeal. And then finally, ultimately, the Supreme Court will say what everybody recognizes, that the president does have that authority, just like he has the authority to negotiate better tariff deals for America, just like he has the authority to deport dangerous, illegal criminals. But they're now trying to, as you know, to use the courts, not to stop, because they can't, but to delay the mandate the American people voted for in the last election.
Yeah, it's amazing to me that there's some things that I always thought would be equally bipartisan, like safety, like the idea that you would never, I get that there's different approaches to policing or whatever, but the idea that you, to your point about Brandon Johnson, defending 54 murders and claiming that things are okay is insane. Well, if you enjoyed this content, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and click the notification bell to get more.